Welcome. I'm Tracy Smith, and this is Here Comes the Sun, a closer look at some of the people, places, and things we bring you every weekend on Sunday morning. I recently sat down with comedian Gabriel "Fluffy" Iglesias to hear what it was like being the first comedian to sell out Dodger Stadium.
Such an amazing night. I still tell everybody that is the single greatest night of my life.
So far.
So far. The week is young.
I don't talk about politics, religion, or sports, okay? Because all three will divide people. That's why I talk about food. Because food brings people together. That's right, unless you're vegan.
There's more from our conversation coming up a little later in the show. What's your goal with comedy? Like, what do you hope comedy does?
Well, my goal for, with comedy is I hope that more people take it serious, even though we do what we do for a living. I just feel like in show business, there's the tier. There's like, okay, there's actors, there's musicians, and then, comics always fall at the bottom of that. So it's like, whatever it is, comics are always at the bottom of that when it comes to entertainment. And I feel like we're not given enough credit.
Then Kristine Johnson brings us a pulse-pounding look at the phenomenon of Formula One racing and legendary driver Lewis Hamilton.
We're all fighting for glory, we're all fighting for chasing time and perfection. There's crashes, there's carnage, there's crazy emotions.
British driver Lewis Hamilton is this era's king, with the most wins of all time. He is tied for the most championships at 7.
That's all coming up right here on Here Comes the Sun. Gabriel "Fluffy" Iglesias went from digging ditches, literally, to becoming a unique comedy all-star who steers clear of controversy. It takes a pretty big name to fill LA's Dodger Stadium. The Beatles didn't quite manage it in '66. But Sir Elton John did in '75. And this guy became the first comic ever to sell out the famous ballpark. All for a comedy special that's streaming now on Netflix.
Wow.
He's Gabriel Iglesias, known to his millions of fans as Fluffy.
Such an amazing night. I still tell everybody that is the single greatest night of my life.
So far.
So far. The week is young.
I don't talk about politics, religion, or sports, okay? Because all three will divide people. That's why I talk about food. Because food brings people together. That's right, unless you're vegan.
Okay, so where did Fluffy come from?
It's a nickname that I got many, many years ago. It's the joke was, I told my mom, they keep calling me fat. Oh, mijo, you're not fat, you're fluffy. And I'm like, Fluffy? Okay, Fluffy. And then it just stuck.
It stuck.
And I hated it. I hated the fact that people were calling me Fluffy, not calling me Gabriel. And right now, if you Google or you go to any search engine and you put in Fluffy, my face pops up. And so I tell people I own the word, because literally, I do.
My dog loves me so much, he cannot control his own bodily functions. When I would go home, I would immediately pick him up before anything. And then my girlfriend would get mad. How come you don't come to me first? Because the dog loves me more. How do you know I don't love you more? I said, I don't see a puddle.
He also owns a reputation as one of the most successful comedians working today, and by choice, one of the least controversial.
Everyone has opinions. And I tell people, I got strong opinions. I go, but I don't put them on stage. I go, you want to know how I feel? Buy me a drink. Let's hang out at the bar. Leave your camera in the car. All right? Let's just talk. As a comic, though, I just want to keep the show fun and friendly for everyone.
The youngest of 6, Iglesias was just a kid when his parents split up, so he was raised by his single mom. Was she strict?
Not strict. She was fair. And I tested her many times as a kid. Fortunately, I learned quickly that I don't like pain. And yeah, because back then you were allowed to, and it was encouraged.
An occasional spanking or two? that
Spanking
sort of
is
thing?
light. No, my mom had a belt that she had a nail that she put in the kitchen in the wall, and then she would hang the belt on the nail, and she'd go, I'm your mom, and that's your dad. You let me know when you want to talk to him. And I'm like, okay.
Anybody got them mothers that would hit you with a shoe? I had a mother that would throw a shoe at you at the drop of a dime.
Even as a grade school kid, young Gabriel was a stand-up comedy fan. This one, Eddie Murphy's Raw, was his favorite.
My mom was going to be gone for a couple of hours, and so I got a couple of hours worth of videotapes, and that's what kept me entertained while she was gone.
And Eddie Murphy Raw.
Eddie Murphy Raw is what I saw and what inspired me to want to do comedy. Next thing I know, I did a school talent show, and the rest is history.
Apollo, please welcome comedian Gabriel Iglesias.
Like most new comedians, Fluffy's early gigs didn't pay much.
I know a lot of you are probably wondering right now, Gabriel, are you related to? Ladies, you better believe it. Hey, trust me, after a six-pack and a shot of tequila, I look a lot like Julio.
So he took side jobs to scrape by.
I knew a contractor, and I called him up and I said, hey, do you have anything I could do for cash? And he goes, well, all I got are guys that are digging ditches. If you're not too good to dig a ditch, I'm like, I'll go dig a ditch. And so I did that just to get cash.
So you'd be digging ditches by day when you had to.
Digging ditches by day and doing
night.
comedy at night.
Well, listen, if we don't leave right now, they're going to close McDonald's and you're going to have to eat at the airport.
But it got better. And within a few years, he went from making a living on stage to making a killing.
No one ever gives me a hard time for driving one of these, or 20.
Now, with a net worth reportedly in the tens of millions, Fluffy Iglesias can afford to indulge his lifelong passion, Volkswagens. So it went from one VW to how many?
A few. Yeah, I don't have a problem.
His office in his hometown of Long Beach, California, looks more like a VW museum. Each one is pristine and drivable. Listen to that.
But if you don't struggle, if you don't know what it is to have to earn something, then will you really appreciate it? How will you take care of it?
But it's a hobby that takes a back seat to his career. Fluffy's been known to spend 44 weeks a year on the road. You've had a few health issues that I don't know whether it's due to the relentless pace, but
No, it's due to drive-thrus. I'm a heavy guy now, but I used to be 100 pounds heavier. And so, it's easy to do it when you're younger, but when time starts creeping up on you, you got to adjust or it'll adjust for you.
did you have alarm bells? I mean, you got diagnosed with diabetes.
Diabetes, yeah. And I still, like, for example, I wear a monitor right here that keeps tabs on my blood sugar and lets me know when I'm acting a fool. But, you wear this long enough, you already know. I already know, just looking at something, it's like a little extra relationship. Like, you should be doing, I know. Don't even think about, I know. So
do you listen to it?
sometimes, but if there's an opportunity for a moment, I feel like I still need my little moments. So yeah,
We did it.
And few moments are sweeter than his Dodger Stadium gig. In fact, the day before it happened, Fluffy said he knew it would be a hard act to follow. How do you top this?
That's been a question. What do we do after this? Because, like, for me, the first thought was after 25 years, maybe I hang it up. I've saved my money. I've paid all my bills. I don't owe anybody anything. I could actually just ride off into the sunset, and I think nobody would hold it against me if I made this the last show. But then there's also the conversation of, well, if you could do one of these, maybe you could do another one. And so, I think that's more so what we're leaning, towards.
Yeah, you can't walk away. Come on.
I know, I'm too pretty still.
More exclusive excerpts from our conversation coming up a little later in the show. But up next, Formula One racing, picking up speed in the U.S. Formula One racing is becoming more popular in the U.S., thanks in part to stars like driver Lewis Hamilton. But as Kristine Johnson found out, the sport has big plans to accelerate even faster in America.
Formula One racing roared into Austin, Texas.
So does that protect your ears?
Yeah, it's a rush, adrenaline. It's just pumping in your heart, and you're like, yes.
Formula One dates back to 1950. It's equal parts speed, triumph, and danger. Up to 230 miles an hour, usually on tracks like the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, where they'll race 56 laps.
What is the draw?
We're all fighting for glory, all fighting for chasing time and perfection. There's crashes, there's carnage, there's crazy emotions.
British driver Lewis Hamilton is this era's king, with the most wins of all time. He is tied for the most championships at 7.
This is how we control the engine. There's multiple different settings for different power modes.
An F1 steering wheel is more like a game console.
You're keeping track of all of this information. You're driving over 200 miles per hour, and you're like this close to your opponent.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It is kind of crazy. I think the great thing about our sport is like you really go into a different place. So you activate a different part of the brain when the visor comes down.
2022 has been disappointing for Hamilton, with no wins so far. But he's become known for more than what he does on the track. He stands out for his sense of fashion. More significantly, he is the only black driver to ever race in F1, and he has been outspoken about increasing diversity in the sport.
When I was a kid, me and my family were watching this sport, and we didn't see anyone like us, but we thought that, maybe we'll get there and we'll be able to change that.
You faced discrimination when you first came into this sport.
Yeah, well, I mean, through my whole life, to be honest, in England, I was told a lot to go back to my own country. There's a lot of racial abuse, both in school, but also at the racetrack. And my responsibility here is to be that thorn in the backside of any of those that are complicit, who are not holding themselves accountable, who are not doing the work.
Formula One races are held across the globe. But F1 is just beginning to pick up speed in the U.S., where Austin and Miami host races. While Europeans followed F1, Americans were traditionally fans of Indy and NASCAR. With big money at stake, Formula One CEO Stefano Domenicali has worked to increase the sport's appeal.
Maybe in the past there was just this attitude of being maybe too much arrogant to say this is Formula One, this is it, take it or leave it.
There's an almost fighter pilot mentality.
Anything can happen.
He says F1 is reaching out to fans by personalizing its drivers, such as on Drive to Survive, a huge hit on Netflix.
We need to stay close to them. We need to stay close to them.
And this is really...
You see? That's amazing.
Maybe Americans haven't been so much into Formula One because there are no American drivers.
Our feet, come all the way down to here. And
so you're laying down, basically.
Yeah, you're pretty laid out, to be honest.
Meet Logan Sargent.
We'll have a seat made, which fits our body perfectly to hold us even tighter in the car.
Talk about custom made.
Yeah, it's fit to perfection. How's it going?
Sargent is
Awesome,
21 years old and races on the F2 circuit, one notch below Formula One. He's the only U.S. driver on the tour, but to get there, he had to move from his native Florida to London.
I've spent my whole life in Europe, sort of, since I was 12 years old, sort of chasing this dream, and I just feel so at home now.
So have you thought about that moment when you're going to be able to race in America?
As an American kid, this is a dream. If you had told me that when I was 6 years old, beginning to race, I would tell you you're crazy.
Formula One is a man's world. Only 2 women have ever started an F1 race.
And the 18 talented female drivers leading the grid.
But on a new tour, the W Series, all drivers are women, including one American, the only American, Chloe Chambers.
This year, I've just graduated high school in June.
Chambers is just 18 years old, and racing was clearly in her blood from an early age.
This is my Porsche.
At 8 years old, she was racing go-karts, winning national titles. She now races for the Jenner team, as in Caitlyn Jenner. As to why there aren't more women like her in racing,
It's not a matter of women not having enough talent. It's just not having enough experience. And that just simply comes from not having enough funding.
to underscore that point, the W Series recently canceled its last 3 races of the year, including Austin, because an investor pulled out. They're hoping to get back on track next year. But also next year, sources confirmed to us, F1 will launch a series featuring young women drivers.
What's your goal? My goal ever since I started racing is Formula One.
We are going to interview Lewis Hamilton. Are you ready to go up against him?
I would totally be up for going against Lewis Hamilton, yes.
A challenge we had to run by the man himself.
I love that. I have a feeling that he would be in total support of that, though.
I love that.
You don't sit and write out jokes?
So my process is...
Coming up next, more with Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias. Stay with us.
Even in school, I was really bad at it. My memory's decent.
Welcome back. Here's more from my conversation with Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias. We started by talking about him being the first ever comedian to sell out Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. So how did it feel walking out onto that stage?
I guess saying surreal is probably not even the right word for it, just because it was overwhelming. Like, I knew that I was going to get emotional just because of the magnitude and just how grand and epic. Like, I can actually say that word and it means something. A lot of people overuse the word epic, but when you walk out and onto a baseball field full, it was epic. I got emotional. I got choked up in the first 30 seconds. I was already crying. And so it was like, oh my God, like, really? This is how we're gonna start it? And so, yeah, right off the bat, I was just like, because I felt the energy, the warmth, the love. I felt like everyone was genuinely happy and excited for me. It was like a celebration as opposed to it just being a performance.
Makes sense. And that's the thing, is you get choked up and the audience is right there with you.
And so once the show was over, based on time, I didn't want to leave the stage. I was out there and the people didn't want to leave and I got fined. It was insane. I'm still paying for that show.
Stop it.
Yes.
Because you didn't want to leave?
Because I didn't want to get off the stage. My set alone, just the performance was probably about 2 hours and 20 minutes. And then there was about 45 minutes of, yay, so this was fun, wasn't it? And they just kept replaying the song at the end over and over and over.
What's your goal with comedy? Like, what do you hope comedy does?
Well, my goal for, with comedy is I hope that more people take it serious, even though it's a, we do what we do for a living. I just feel like in show business, there's the tier. There's like, okay, there's actors, there's musicians, and then, comics always fall at the bottom of that. So it's like, whatever it is, comics are always at the bottom of that when it comes to entertainment. And I feel like we're not given enough credit. It's like if you're an actor, you got someone writing lines for you. You can go coaching. You got, other people you depend on, good sound, good lighting. If you're a singer, you got a backup band. You got instruments. You got, things around you. But as a comic, you are naked. It's just you and a microphone, if you're lucky. So the fact that, to be able to do something like what happened at Dodger Stadium, and it was just me talking, and everyone being like, yeah, we're here to hear him talk. No band, no Hamlet, no Shakespeare. It was just me talking and making people laugh. And I think that I want to raise the bar of comedy and make it something that's a little bit more, than just a joke. Ha ha.
It's an art.
It is.
What's your process?
Well, I don't sit and write. I've never been good at that ever since school. It's not that I can't read or write. I'm literate.
But you don't sit and write out jokes?
So my process is very simple. I cannot sit and write stuff out because it's just, I've never been able to do that. Even in school, I was really bad at it. My memory's decent. And I record all my shows, and then I go back and I review, and whatever got a laugh, I kept. Whatever didn't, I worked on. I have an idea of things that I want to talk about when I go up on stage, so that's already my preparation, or I vent about something that bothered me. And usually when I vent or I get upset about something, for some reason it's funny.
I always ask successful people this. How much of it is luck?
That's a good question. I'm a big believer in putting out good energy, and I think that if you're nice and you put out good energy and just, you get back what you give out.
I'm Tracy Smith. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you here next time on Here Comes the Sun.